In the automotive world, there is a rule that says in order for a car to be truly special, it needs to be extremely rare, extremely expensive, and it needs to be made in a country other than America. And people actually believe that shit. But things have changed because Chevy has finally revealed the C8 Corvette ZR1X, and it's immediately become one of the highest praised vehicles ever made. And that seems to be pissing a lot of people off.
Easy, easy. Whoa, you gotta calm down there, Chuck.
As expected, in response to the reveal of this incredible car, exotic car owners have launched their typical volley of Corvette owner stereotype attacks. But what's really going on here is that there's a whole bunch of people who are butthurt because they spent years and millions of dollars working their way up the dealership ladder, buying the less desirable Mclarens and Ferraris so they could one day get the halo car that they really wanted. And after all of that time and all of that money was spent and they finally got their dream exotic, it gets crushed by a company called Chevrolet.
Say hello to my little friend!
According to Chevy, the ZR1X can do 0 to 60 in under 2 seconds, the quarter mile in under 9 seconds, and it will have a top speed close to 240 miles per hour. And to put that performance in perspective, it's quicker to 60 miles an hour than the $5 million Bugatti Chiron Supersport, the $5 million Koenigsegg CC-XR Trevita, the $4 million Ferrari F80, the $2 million McLaren W1, and it's even quicker than the $5 million game-changing Mercedes-AMG 1.
Bro was on.
If you're finding this video to be at least a little bit informative or entertaining, please give it a like. And if you're new to my channel, I produce original automotive content that you cannot find anywhere else. So if you're not subscribed yet, get your shit together and subscribe. But here's the thing. When independent sources tested the ZR1, they said it was even faster than what Chevy reported, and it's fair to assume that Chevy is also publishing conservative performance numbers for the ZR1X. So there's a chance that the actual performance specs will be closer to 0 to 60 in 1.8 seconds and the quarter mile in roughly 8.5 seconds. And on a side note, the ZR1X was not called the Zora as we were expecting, but this could be a good thing. The Zora was always expected to be the C8 Corvette swan song, but the car just got its mid-cycle refresh and it will remain in production for a few more years. So there's still plenty of opportunity for Chevy to introduce an even more powerful C8 Corvette. Now, I'm going to say something that I never thought I would ever say, and you're gonna get mad, and then we're gonna talk about it. Because I'm not even a Corvette person, but I am an objective person who loves cars, and I am a person who has gotten tired of watching sports cars becoming something that people show off on social media instead of something that people actually drive. And this is what I have to say. The Chevy Corvette is the most important high-performance car in production today.
serious?
And I'm not just referring to the ZR1X or the ZR1 or even the Z06. I'm talking about all Corvettes currently in production.
What? What the fuck?
Now, it's a tough pill to swallow, I get it. After the Ford Mustang, the Chevy Corvette is probably the most stigmatized car in production today. But let me tell you something, all of the jean shorts and all of the New Balance shoes in the world won't stop the ZR1 from embarrassing every supercar and hypercar in production right now.
Stop! You're embarrassing me!
Now you might be thinking, with so many companies making rare and exclusive high-performance cars like McLaren, Lamborghini, Ferrari, Bugatti, Pagani, Aston Martin, Koenigsegg, Porsche, and on and on and on, why is the Corvette more important than anything these other companies are making? That's a good question, and there's actually several reasons why. And we'll start with the most obvious one.
Catching up! Catching up!
The Corvette offers better performance than cars that cost exponentially more. And now that the ZR1X is here, you no longer need to be a member of the elite class to own one of the fastest cars ever made.
Doors on Friday night, how do you swing that?
Which is a wonderful thing, but it's also a thing that's upsetting a lot of people.
I am talking scorched earth, mother. I will massacre you.
The reasoning for this is complicated, but the answer is simple: marketing. Years ago, high-performance car companies in Europe came up with the idea of selling high-performance cars for exponentially more than their American and German counterparts. But they were faced with a challenge. How do they get people to spend exorbitant amounts of money on something that they don't need? But not just something that they don't need, something that's slower and less dependable than cars that cost less. And to find a way around this hurdle, European car companies hired marketing departments to come up with reasons to justify making such a ridiculous purchase. And their solution to this challenge was to start using terms like exclusivity and privilege. And all of a sudden, European car companies weren't just selling cars. They were selling the idea that people who drove their cars were far better than people who drove other cars. And it was at this moment that the term exotics was born. Well, of course our cars cost more than the average house. They're not meant for everyone. They're made for the exclusive, the privileged. In fact, the other day I simply thought about an average person driving one of our cars, and I threw up a little. But then Chevy, an automotive company best known for making pickup trucks for blue-collar workers, comes along with the ZR1 and prices it at $175,000. And now all of that exclusivity and privilege bullshit went straight down the toilet. But they didn't stop there, because after the toilet refilled itself and the water had settled, Chevy introduced the ZR1X. Now, if you remember, about a month before the specs of the C8 ZR1 were revealed, we were listening to McLaren tell us why the W1 is worth $2.1 million.
Best looking, sounding, performing.
But one car has to define a generation and absolutely be the pinnacle in the representation of McLaren DNA.
It's the pinnacle of supercar technology, right down to the atomic detail.
An expression and a delivery of all the best attributes.
But then after the specs of the C8 ZR1 were revealed, we laughed at the mere existence of the W1. Because why in God's name would anyone spend $2.1 million on something this ugly when for 1/12 of the cost, the ZR1 has a faster 0 to 60 time, a faster quarter-mile time, a faster top speed, and it would absolutely obliterate the W1 around any racetrack in the world?
Is this a 5 o'clock free crack giveaway?
And just think about that for a second. You could have 12 superior ZR1s for the cost of a single inferior W1. So yeah, people are upset. They spent enormous sums of money on their highly coveted McLarens and Lamborghinis and Ferraris and Koenigsegg's, only to have their lunches eaten by a blue-collar truck company called Chevy, and a fresh batch of salt just got poured into those wounds when the ZR1X was revealed.
You have words?
And I've got bad news for all of these people, because this scenario isn't going away. In fact, it's only going to get worse, because unlike Europe, whose governments are introducing legislation designed to cripple high-performance cars, the good old US of A is giving auto manufacturers free rein to make cars as fast and as brutal as they want.
And God bless the United States of America!
Now, most car people probably won't agree with my sentiment that the Corvette is the most important supercar in production today. But there is one thing that we can agree on, and that is that the high-performance cars being produced today are not as desirable as they were 20 or 30 years ago. And back then, nobody was buying cars to show them off on social media. They were buying them to drive the living hell out of them on their favorite roads. And it seems like every day I hear about another company that's about to introduce some new multi-million-dollar extreme limited production hypercar that'll just end up in storage because it's so rare and exclusive. But the idea of making an ultra high performance car so it doesn't get driven is the very definition of counterproductive.
Not a great plan.
But Corvettes, on the other hand, were meant to be driven. GM's engineers have taken the ZR1 to racetracks all over the US, and they completely destroyed all of the previous lap records. Chevy wants you to drive the Corvette. They want you to thrash it on racetracks. Chevy isn't handpicking customers who will simply lock their cars away like other supercar companies are. Chevy will sell the Corvette to anyone who wants one.
Amen, brother.
And a car that gets driven the way it is meant to be driven is more important than a car that spends its life sitting in a garage.
Tell it, Daddy.
And the fact that the C8 ZR1 is the only supercar that has over 1,000 horsepower that was meant to be driven every single day makes it the most important supercar in production.
Testify!
The next reason the Corvette is the most important high-performance car today is my favorite: accessibility. Unlike the European manufacturers who like to think their cars are too good for the average person, the Corvette is specifically made for the average person.
You know what they say, see a broad to get that booty yak 'em, leg her down and smack 'em, yak 'em. Cole got to be.
This whole idea of I'm better than you because my car is an exotic is based on insecurity and has nothing to do with performance.
I'm only 9 years old, I ain't got no license, but I still drive this sports car, bitch. Your favorite rapper ain't even doing it like Lil Tay.
Performance cars are supposed to invoke things like excitement and beauty and lust, but it all just got corrupted once cars started getting marketing as exotics. The Corvette says, ignore all of that bullshit and go out and drive. And that is what a performance car is supposed to be about. Now, I know a lot of you are saying, okay, fine, maybe the Corvette is faster than my exotic, but the build quality isn't nearly as good.
Let he who is without sin throweth the first rock, and I shout, smoketh it.
And it's crazy how exotic car owners have this mindset, because they're the ones taking their cars in for repairs all the time. There are literally dozens of YouTubers who do nothing but make videos about all of the maintenance issues they have to deal with on their exotics. I personally know exotic car owners who are always telling me about their $5,000 repairs, their $8,000 repairs, and their $12,000 repairs. And then they try to tell me it's the most reliable car they've ever owned.
Why must you turn my office into a house of lies?
And this isn't to say that no ZR1 has ever needed to be repaired, but the maintenance costs of a ZR1 are literally a tiny fractions of the maintenance costs of any other exotic car that has 1,000 horsepower or more. Check this out.
So tyres are circa 20k for a set of tyres. They have to go off to Molsheim and be bonded at the factory.
So you can't like get them fitted anywhere?
No.
So you have to send the wheels somewhere?
The Veyron wheels currently have to go back to the factory.
That's mad, isn't it?
So circa 20k for tyres. In terms of wheels, I've got a really good contact of mine. I've bought a spare set of wheels for the car. Just the wheels alone without the tyres, the spare wheels were circa 100k.
So, to round this all up, if we split the service cost to cover only a year, the wheels are scrap after 4 sets of tyres, and we can add 20k in brake wear, we are already up to an insane cost to own.
That's the exact cost of a ZR1, so just the annual maintenance alone costs the same as a brand new ZR1.
I had to replace turbos, I had to replace other stuff. Like the moment that I got it, just everything is constantly breaking. I think a month into it, $50,000 in repairs. 6 months later, there was another $75,000 repair bill where it was just, I'm like, it just doesn't make sense because this is going to keep happening. So I only ended up keeping that for about a year, and then I sold it. A repair on that, I think a new engine is $800,000 in the Chiron.
So what's the service on something like this?
So I'd say a full service, as in all the fluids and all the filters, I'd say £7,000.
Wow, okay, £7,000. Brakes, pretty special on this car?
Yeah, I mean, if you're using it in anger and a lot of track days, you could be looking at a bill for £60,000 to include brakes, tyres and service costs.
Hybrid batteries?
Yes, can get expensive. So to replace the battery pack on this car, the main hybrid battery pack is £100,000. Just the battery that starts the engine is £6,000, which is just a 12-volt battery on a carbon fibre plate.
And that's another reason the Corvette is the most important high-performance car in production today. Even though it's incredibly powerful, it's made to be driven rain or shine, day in and day out. And the final reason the Corvette is the most important high-performance car in production today is the one that people can't stop talking about: the performance. Whether you're looking at the Stingray, the Z06, the ZR1, or the ZR1X, any other car in the same price range is simply going to get embarrassed by a comparably priced Corvette. And to prove this, let's take a look at the ZR1's biggest competitors, which are the McLaren 750S, the Lamborghini Revolto, the Ferrari SF90 Stradale, the Ferrari 296 GTB, and the Porsche 911 Turbo S. The McLaren 750S has a price of $330,000. It packs 740 horsepower, has a 0 to 60 time of 2.8 seconds, does the quarter mile in 10.1 seconds, and has a top speed of 206 miles per hour. That means when compared to the ZR1, the 750S costs $155,000 more, has 320 horsepower less, a 0 to 60 time that is 6 seconds slower, and a top speed that is 27 miles per hour slower.
That does not make sense.
Now, I would say that the 750S is better looking than the ZR1, but I certainly wouldn't pay an additional $155,000 more for inferior performance and less reliability. The Lamborghini Revolto has a price of $605,000. It packs 1,001 horsepower, has a 0 to 60 time of 2.2 seconds, and a top speed of 217 miles per hour. That means when compared to the ZR1, the Lamborghini Revolto costs $430,000 more, has 59 horsepower less, a 0 to 60 time that is identical, but a top speed that is 16 miles per hour slower.
Does it make sense? No.
And as far as looks go, I'll let Jason Camissa talk about that.
Look at these two cars and tell me the Lamborghini doesn't actually look a bit restrained next to the Corvette. Tell me the Corvette doesn't look more like a Lamborghini than it does like today's Ferraris.
The Ferrari SF90 Stradale has a price of $600,000. It packs 986 horsepower, has a 0 to 60 time of 2.5 seconds, and a top speed of 211 miles per hour. That means when compared to the ZR1, the Ferrari SF90 Stradale costs $450,000 more, has 74 horsepower less, a 0 to 60 time that is 0.3 seconds slower, and a top speed that is 22 miles per hour slower.
Does that make sense? Ladies and gentlemen, I am not making any sense. None of this makes sense.
But I will say it is better looking than the ZR1. The Ferrari 296 GTB has a price of $350,000. It packs 819 horsepower, has a 0 to 60 time of 2.4 seconds, and a top speed of 205 miles per hour. That means when compared to the ZR1, the Ferrari 296 GTB costs $170,000 more, or twice as much, has 240 horsepower less, a 0 to 60 time that is 0.2 seconds slower, and a top speed that is 28 miles per hour slower.
That does not make sense.
And when it comes to looks, the 296 is one of the stranger looking contemporary Ferraris, and I would say the ZR1 is a little better looking. The most comparable competitor to the ZR1 is the Porsche 911 Turbo S, which has a base price of $230,000, packs 640 horsepower, and has a 0 to 60 time of 2.2 seconds and a top speed of 205 miles per hour. That means when compared to the ZR1, the 911 Turbo S costs $55,000 more, has 420 horsepower less, a 0 to 60 time that is identical, and a top speed that is 28 miles per hour slower.
Ladies and gentlemen of this supposed jury, it does not make sense.
And when it comes to looks, the ZR1 is just a cooler car. So yes, the Corvette is an incredibly stigmatized car, and yes, for the first few generations it couldn't keep up with the exotics. But today, the Corvette has transformed into a refined, razor-sharp, lap-crushing pinnacle of performance. And with its striking exterior, superior power, affordable price, low maintenance, and accessibility to most people who have a job, the Chevy Corvette has become the most important high-performance car in production today and for the foreseeable future. Thanks for watching, and for more automotive content that you cannot find anywhere else, click here to subscribe. Seriously, click it.